Hello everyone, this is Michelle Pfeifus of Pattern Observer, and today I want to share some quick tips to getting started using watercolors to create prints and patterns. So I haven't actually taken a watercolor course since middle school, so I might not use the most conventional techniques, but I have used watercolors in my textile design work for over 10 years. And through that time, I've learned some tricks and techniques to speed up the process. So today we're going to be working with stripes. And in our latest Textile Design Lab tutorial, I share how to take these rough watercolor stripes that you see here on the left and turn them into a broken stripe layout in repeat that you see here on the right. And so you can see that this is a very basic stripe, but the techniques used to create this stripe can be used to create more complicated stripes and prints as well, such as those which are a part of our new library of prints, which are available for purchase. So let's get started. So you'll find links to all these supplies in the documentation below, but let's review what you'll need before you get started. I recommend using a watercolor paper with a very subtle texture. In this tutorial, I use the Strathmore watercolor paper, cold press at 90 pounds. It has a subtle texture, which your scanner won't pick up as much as some of the other watercolor papers. And I personally think cheap watercolors are fine to use, especially when you're first experimenting with the process. I still use my old Prang oval pan watercolor set with 16 colors, which you see here, which is only around $8. And the Winsor & Newton Cotman watercolor Sketchers pocket box with 12 colors is a wonderful thing to have on hand. And so once you figure out your favorite colors, those that you go to all the time and those that end up being used before the rest of the colors, you can purchase individual tubes, which you see here. And that's what's so great about watercolors. The supplies are inexpensive, and you really just need a pack of nice watercolor paper and a set of cheap paints to get started. So here are some helpful tips and techniques. Start with a light base color, such as yellow, and then layer additional colors to give the stripe or the motif depth and dimension. So you can see here in the image, I start with my plain yellow stripe, and then I go on to layer oranges and greens and reds to give the stripes more dimension. But having that base color is a really great place to start and adds that sense of depth to your motif. If ending up with too many colors is a concern, for example, if you're creating a print or pattern that needs to be printed on fabric and you don't want the final product to have more than, let's say, 12 colors, then don't go wild at this stage using too many different colors. For example, creating a multicolor watercolor stripe might be difficult for a lot of manufacturers to produce using the wet printing process. So you might want to just create a 2-color stripe, and then you can have lovely variations within your colors and really get the most of the watercolor effect without going overboard and without having a print that requires hundreds of colors to be beautifully printed on fabric. Also remember to move the paper around or use a blow dryer to control the movement of water and paint. I tend to get impatient during the painting process, so I really like to use a blow dryer to move the water around and speed up the drying process. It's also important to vary line weight and stripe length. When most buyers are looking to purchase or create a watercolor stripe or a watercolor print, they're looking for that raw, rough, organic feel in the print. And so this is a great time to experiment with line weight and also experiment with the amount of water being used. It's nice if you can achieve that dry brush effect sometimes and not go overboard with the watery effect that you see in many watercolors. And last but not least, paint with one color, such as purple, and then add a variety of colors using the hue saturation tool in Photoshop. So for example, here you can see that I created this stripe with just using my purple watercolor paints. And this is great because you don't have to rinse your brush out so many times, you use less paint. It really speeds up the painting process. And then I scanned in and opened my scan document in Photoshop, and using the hue saturation tool here, I was able to quickly turn this one color stripe into a multicolored stripe option. I love starting the design process off the computer, sketching, painting, using different artistic techniques off the computer, and then bringing those sketches into Photoshop to really finesse and prepare for the production process. So these are just some quick tips to get you started, and I encourage you to just go out, purchase a set of cheap paints, and start experimenting. If you're interested in learning how to turn these rough paintings into marketable patterns, then please join us in the Textile Design Lab for the full tutorial, as well as other courses which will help you begin to earn a living from the artwork that you love to create. Thank you so much and have a nice day.